Twisted Build Speeduino update. Last video update I posted, I had my board hooked up to power with my bench power supply, and had a little potentiometer I have from one of my or just spare potentiometers I have from my dollar boost building. So I've showed you guys how it connected to the Tuner Studio program. Excuse me. A little bit's changed since then. I got my Speeduino simulator in, and it's really nice. It's one I got this one from DIY EFI out in Britain area, I do believe, out in the UK. Had it shipped over the pond, and it is a Speedy Sim. There's also a guy in Michigan that's gonna start selling these as well, and it's you can use it for the Speeduino boards for like the regular. Let me grab one of these regular boards where it's got the normal like 40-pin hookup. You can put an adapter that it comes with this that you can solder onto the board here, and then you can plug it right into the 40-pin connector on the board and simulate the board with it. Or you can do what I did, which is it comes with 3 connectors, as you see here, and you can wire those into your version of a Speeduino or whatever. So that's what I did. If you look here, let me see if I can focus this in. There we go. You can see the injector 1 through 4. Where's my finger? You can see the injector 1 through 4, the ignition 1 through 4, TPS, coolant temp, RPM, the spare, a spare 1 and 2, the O2 sensor, air intake temperature, and then the power and ground for the board, and then also the high current load controls. So that the first one's like boost control, so on and so forth. So you can test all that stuff out. The spare 1 and 2 is actually spare analog outputs from this board into the Speeduino. And what you're going to see here is you see these wires hooked up right here. Excuse me. Those wires are actually my Bluetooth. So the way I set this up originally, this is the Bluetooth header. And this is supposed to be the header for a USB cord, because I'm going to eventually make these waterproof, and it will allow you to go USB from there to here. I did find out, though, that my idea for Bluetooth connectivity isn't working at all. I can't figure out what's going on. So what happens is I have it set up to where you can ground control switch the Bluetooth module, which actually I have sitting right here, through this connector. So like if you had the toggle switch off the Bluetooth module, it wouldn't get a ground and it'd be shut off. If you turned the switch on and gave it a ground, the module would come on. That was my plan, to allow you to have toggle switch usage of Bluetooth. However, whenever you remove the ground from this module but leave the communication lines hooked up, it still interferes with the USB cord. So you can't like just disconnect the power from the Bluetooth and plug a USB cord between there and the computer. It doesn't work. I've tried every which way imaginable. I've talked to the one reseller that has done it on a bench and has his setup working. Have this set up the exact same, and for some reason I can't get it to work. Or work properly. So I'm kind of ditching the effort right at the moment. Just because right now I just want to get this in the car and functioning. So because of that, and right now I'm not making my waterproof connector, my waterproof board cover or case or whatever, and that hole is open. I was like, okay, I'm not going to be using the 4 pins going out of my small connector right now for the USB connection, so I'm going to throw Bluetooth out of it. So this header right here, this wire connection, is comes with the Bluetooth module that I get. And it literally plugs into my one Bluetooth header, and I plug it right into my USB header. It sends it through the board out to my small amp seal connector, and then right now I just have it bench tested, 4-wire hookup right to my Bluetooth module, and it's currently connected to my Tuner Studio program because this laptop right here is it's a 2011 or 10, I think. Actually, it's a 2010 laptop. Windows 7, and it does not have Bluetooth on board. But you can get a cheap, I think I paid less than $15 for the CSR 4.0 Bluetooth dongle that plugs right into the USB, and it allows Bluetooth connectivity right now between this module and the computer. And I'll prove that to you by changing the RPM. So this one right here, that potentiometer runs RPM and TPS. The Speedysim's a little weird with that. It will peg the RPM first before the TPS even gets above 30%. But you can swing it all the way through to like 100% throttle position to make sure it's all functioning. It's part of the simulator. I think they probably ran out of. I don't know if it's part of just the operating system on the simulator itself or what's going on there, but that's how they did it. So, and it's fine with me because we're just bench testing. So I'm going to turn that knob up, and you can see how fast it reacts. And then I'm going to go all the way to 100% and go back down. But you can see like it reacts very fast. It's comparable to my Megasquirt 2. I would say even this one's a little bit faster, which is kind of phenomenal to say. But I'm going to bring it up from cranking RPM back up to a stable running RPM. We'll try it around 800, 900, 900 is good. So, and you can see like 900 RPM, no TPS. But anyway, I've got I also said in the last video how I didn't have enough board trace to run the on-band wideband controller. I'm going to tip this up. You can see I added the trace to it, and I super glued it. I actually got a special kind of super glue that I found has no continuity whatsoever, so you can like super glue right over pins, and it doesn't matter. So I did that. I super glued it to the board that way that it's not like doing, shaking around, getting weird, rubbing holes or whatever in the wire, shorting out, anything like that. So it'll be good for the first 10, because I got 10 of these made up. It'll be good for those 10. After that, I'm going to remake these boards with a stronger trace for that, so you don't have to do that. But for prototype use right now, in the first few batches, definitely the ones that are not running a wideband controller, these boards are perfect. So, the ones running a wideband controller, at least the first 10 that I had, or 9 more, I guess, I'm going to have to add that trace to. And to be honest, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get these Spartan 2 OEMs anymore, because the guy's been out of stock for a bit. I need to get a hold of them, see if I can get them sourced or not. So we're going to have to see if I'm going to have to change that design as well or not. But for right now, it's functioning. I tested everything on the board. So as I listed on my one blog post update, which you can find on my Twisted Builds website, it's twistedbuilds.com. Go to the recent blog post. It's the latest blog post. It's the one I have about this. I'm going to also copy and paste that blog post and put it underneath its own page for these Speeduinos. But right now I just haven't done it yet because I've been busy working on this. Well, my camera died. So it was getting late that night, so I let the camera charge up and I stopped the video for the evening. But anyway, it's now Monday and I just got back from work and I'm going to start in on the Firebird. So this is the module put in its case. It's a 3D printed case that I've made for it. USB connection in the back, and then that amp seal connector up front here. So same thing you saw sitting here. I literally just put it in the case. And the case is eventually going to get redesigned whenever I start selling the units. I'm actually going to put a couple more screw holes in it. But for right now, this will work for the Firebird one and for testing. So it's not that heavy. I probably ought to weigh it. I may take it off the Firebird and weigh it at some point, but I'm eager to get this wired in and going. So I'm going to start in on it quite directly. Got all, as I said, got all that oldness out, and I actually labeled all my wires. I'm going to, because my garage is a little dim, I'm going to see what I can do with a flashlight and get this to actually get nice and shut. Oh, you actually might be able to see it. Let me look in here. It's a little dark. Let me get my flashlight quick. It might get bright. Let me see if I can set this up over here or something so it's not terribly bright. But bright enough I can actually see what's going on. Will you stay up? Joy's not having a well-lit garage. Okay, so I took everything out and everything was mounted up on my this is up for my Megasquirt 2 when I was everything mounted underneath my dash. So, and I took and labeled everything so that way I wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel whenever I'm working on this harness. So I'm actually going to start, I'm going to do a couple wires tonight, and I'm going to show you how it's going to, like, if you already have a harness something like this where your car's already wired and you're going to be running my my Speeduino ECU. You're going from like a Mega Squirt or whatever, or an MS2 or whatever factory engine computer, and you want to go to mine. This is going to be the quickest way of doing it. So, like for instance, I plan on eventually making harnesses that go from a factory LS. Like I would love to get the PCM side of the connector for a factory LS computer and then make it plug into my ECU. Like have a I guess like a jumper harness or whatever. But anyway, that's beside the point. This is how you're going to take and pin the wires and go into my connector. So hold on, I'll be back. I've got to grab another tool. Okay, so I did one just quickly to make sure everything was working good with the thicker gauge wire, and it actually works really easy with the thicker gauge wire. I thought I was going to need a tool to press it in to the amp seal connector, but it turns out I don't need it, which is good because it's down there somewhere and I can't find it readily, so not a big deal. Okay, so as I said, am going to issue everyone or have downloadable my pinout diagram. This is just simple pinout. I'm also going to do a wiring diagram as I said, but because everything's kind of wired on this car already, I'm just switching over from one PCM to another. I just need a pinout for the big connector pins and what they are for. So I already did injector 1. We're going to go, which is the big connector pin 1. I'm going to go on to injector 2 and show you how to crimp it. Now, when you get this, I'm going to pull this piece of masking tape off this quick. You get a whole spool of pins that look like that, alright? And I'm going to see if I can get that to zoom in here. Focus. Will you focus, darn it? I don't know if you can see that, but those, there we go. Those are the pins you're using. They're the amp seal pin. They're rated up to 15 amps each. And I literally, I'm going to actually hold this with my chest quick, hopefully this will work. And I literally just take and bend these back and forth till you get one off. Hopefully you can see that. But just bend it back and forth till you get one off. So now I'm going to set the camera down, hopefully, and show you how to crimp them. Now, the crimping part is going to be the most important part. You're going to need a special crimper. Which I didn't know about this before I got the connectors, but I got one from Blue Point just because of the fact that I am a certified Ford tech. I work at a Ford garage, and the Blue Point truck, or the Snap-on truck, comes by every Friday. I have an account with them, so it's not a huge deal for me. You don't have to get the Snap-on ones, though, or the Blue Point ones. They make these exact crimps. I think you can get them at Lowe's or Home Depot or wherever. I think Summit Racing also sells them. And I'm going to try to find a set and just link to them on my website for where you can get a style like this. The big thing with them is, if I can get this to focus again, open those up and focus on them. Focus. Let me zoom in here. Okay, you see that little, like you see the E and see the little line inside the crimp right there. That little line, if I go right here, see how it's like a little, there we go. Focus. Probably not happy, my hand's shaking. Okay, you see how it's like a little divoted right there? That little divot right there in the middle takes and, let's see if I can get it to focus here. Come on. Focus. There we go. Takes the middle of that. There's two parts of this connector. There's one at the very end and the one in the middle. The one in the middle crimps onto the wire. The one at the very end crimps onto the insulation. I'm going to show you how to do it. So, and because of the way these are, that little little moon in the middle of that guy, pretty much takes and folds over both shapes. Let me grab a pen. Maybe writing this down will be easy for you. So it literally takes and makes that crimp that's like this and around like this, and literally folds both ends over like that. So, and just does that, and then it compresses that in and also flattens out the bottom of the connector, or the pin. And it makes a nice tight crimp on the copper part of the wire. And then the very end part, which is that part right here, focus, there we go. that part right there where it's kind of like oddball, it's not even. That actually does the same thing as that and gets a grip on the wire. So I'm gonna set the camera down quick, and I'm gonna hopefully show you what I'm talking about. Let me zoom all the way out here. And excuse my camera wiring because this is really tight underneath this dash, but I do want to show you guys what I'm doing. Worst case scenario, I will also take a video on a bench with some wire, so that way you can see what I'm talking about. But anyway, I'm going to set the camera. Hopefully that's good. I'll try to get you guys in view here. And hopefully it doesn't move on me or fall, because this is my nice expensive camera. Okay, so we're going to take, and I got injector 1 already in, and the amp seal connector. It's kind of hard to see in this maze of wires, but that one right there is already in. So we're doing injector 2, which I think is this guy. Let me look here. Injector 2. Yep, that's it. Okay, so key trick is going to be the very end of the wire right here, the very copper part, because I already had these in that relay box for the Mega Squirt. They're already exposed. If they're not, you need to expose a chunk of the wire with some wire strippers, and then I like to twist the ends up to make a nice firm connection. I know some people might yell at me for doing that. I've never had an issue. Then you want the end of that wire to go in the hole a little bit at the end of the pin. It's not going to go in very far, but just a little bit. And then you take, and I use, I don't know if you can see, hopefully the E, which is the smaller one. That's the one for the first part, which is right here. So this open end goes towards the pins, goes towards the 2 flats coming up, and go like that, and then crimp it in. Get a nice tight crimp on it, and hopefully you can see. Let me see if I can zoom in here. You can see how it like indented. I'm going to try to get the camera to stay there. See how it indented in the middle there? Okay, and on the back side, get this wire to turn. It actually crimped into the back as well. Make a nice tight crimp. You also see it kind of put a little bit of a bend to it. It's not quite straight anymore. Whenever I do this last one, I always just hold this part in with the crimp, with the crimpers, and then bend the pin straight. It's not a big deal. So you can even do it by hand like this. It's not a huge deal, but okay. So now this part is the part, you can see how these two are uneven. Those are the part that grab a hold of the wire. So I have found, and everyone's going to do this different. It's going to matter on the crimp or the crimpers you have. But with these, I use the A first and then go to the E. So it seems to me like it helps get it started and then finish it off with the E. So same deal. I'm going to try to keep this all in frame. Hopefully you guys can see that. It's kind of hard underneath the dash of my car, but I think we're good there. So press in. You can see how it starts crimping into the wire a little bit right there. It's probably not the perfect one, but of course the one I put on video is not going to be the perfect one, but yeah. I don't want to mess this up, so just give me a minute here. So yeah, I didn't do it right because of the... Alright, so just like that, and go to the last one. Try to get everything straight up correctly, and then you don't have to crimp hard on it on the last one, but you can see how I got a nice... Hold on, let me see if I can get this in view. See how I got a nice crimp onto the wire? It's nice and actually poked into the wire with the top one there. That's what you're looking for. And then see how it's got like a little bit of a bend to it? You don't want that. So I just grab it with the very top part of my crimper and bend it up just to make everything straight again. Just like so. So that's injector 2. So we can technically take the tape off. I'm not going to get it all off. I'm not that worried. I will eventually. You know, like I said with the other part of the wiring harness, I'll eventually do it. That'll probably be 2 years down the road. I'm kidding. I'll probably do it off camera, just get it cleaned up. But anyway, so I got the tape all relatively off. This is injector number 2. That goes on pin number 2. So real easy at this point. These, as I showed in another video, are labeled. Let me zoom back in here so hopefully you can see what I'm talking about. I this camera. So see how, like, you can easily see on the, I'm looking at the viewfinder, you can see the 10 down there. So there's a 1 right here that's covered up right now by the wire. You might, yeah, you can see it right there. So the 1, then 2, and then 3 is up top with 3. So it's real easy. I'm going to try to keep this in frame. Just take it, press it into 2. Go all the way in. Press so you hear a little click like that. And then you can also check on the back side here. See how both pins right there are coming all the way through? Oh, the one actually might be pressed in a little bit. There we go. Okay, now see how they're both in? Just like that, where the metal's coming all the way out to the edge. That's it. So once you get all these, like once I get all these wires in, I'm going to zoom back out so you can see what I'm talking about here. Alright, so once I get all these wires in right here, I'm going to, I'll add it to the video, but pretty much you'll see me go all the way through. Once they're all in, see these 2 little white tabs up here? You'll actually push those down and it will retain all these, so you can't just pull the wires back out. And then you can plug it right into the computer. But that's pretty much it. So the rest of this stuff's going to be a little bit boring, so I'm going to spare you guys from it. I'm going to go through and one by one, as you just saw me do there, I'm going to go through and pin each one of those wires and put them in the connectors where they're supposed to be, and then go from there.